Today is the 9th day of Kislev. We are beginning a new chapter, chapter 24, discussing mistakes in Torah scrolls that would make the Torah a not kosher Torah, or which mistakes would make it a not kosher Torah, which mistakes would still allow it to be a kosher Torah. Today we'll be doing paragraphs 1 through 6. Now, by way of introduction, these laws are not so relevant for the average Jewish person. Most people would not even be aware, even people who go to shul regularly would not even be aware of mistakes in the Torah, because you have to be a pretty good Torah reader who knows what the word's supposed to be to pick up that there's a mistake over here. And also, usually the rabbi of the shul is the one that's going to decide. So the average Jew going to shul, even average shul going Jew, would not need to know this information. However, it is very interesting, and so we'll go through it, maybe not as in depth, not as in detail, because not so practical for us, but definitely is just interesting, good stuff to know. So paragraph 1. Let's say the Torah reader is reading the Torah and he notices this word is spelled wrong, or it's missing a letter, or there's an extra letter. Does that invalidate the Torah? Do we say you have to put this Torah away and take out a new Torah to continue reading? So it depends on one of two things could require us to say we have to take out a new Torah. If, let's say there's, a letter missing, a letter added, or a letter switched. If that mistake changes either the meaning of the word or the pronunciation of the word, then it will make the Torah invalid to continue using until it's fixed, and you have to take out another Torah scroll to finish off the Torah reading. Now you might ask, wait a minute, if there's an added letter, a missing letter, or a switched letter, then of course it's going to change either the meaning of the word or how the word is pronounced. So the truth is that most cases it will, but there are some cases where it won't. For example, there's a word avosam, which literally means their fathers. There's a vav in there for the avo. There's a vav in there. That vav is really part of the vowel. It's the O part of the O sound. So if that vav is missing, it still sounds like avosam, and it still means their fathers. It's not spelled 100% correctly, but it still means that, and it still sounds the same. So that would be an example of something which would not require a new Torah scroll to be brought out. Sometimes you'll have an extra yud in a word, which if that yud is missing, it will not affect how it's pronounced or what it means. This is where the yud is not part of the root of the word. For example, the word avosechem, which means your fathers. So there's a yud over there, the third to last letter, and that yud doesn't have its own vowel attached to it, so you really could spell the word without that yud, and it doesn't mean anything different, and it doesn't sound anything different, and therefore, if it was missing that yud, you could still finish off the Torah reading with this Torah. However, if the yud was part of the root of a word, then the fact that it's missing changes the meaning of the word, and that would invalidate the Torah. You would have to take another Torah scroll out to finish reading the Torah. Paragraph 2. Another mistake that might be found. Let's say you have a word which is divided. It's supposed to be one word, and it's divided into two words. There's a break in the middle of the word. Or let's say you have the Torah reader is reading the Torah, and he sees, there's an extra word over here, or a word is repeated, making it an extra word. In these cases, we'd have to put that Torah away and take out another Torah to continue reading the Torah portion. We discussed in chapter 23 the idea of psuchas and stumas, paragraphs, the way that the paragraphs end in the Torah. Sometimes the paragraph will end and the next paragraph will begin on the same line, just there'll be a break, and the next paragraph will begin later on down that line. That type of paragraph ending is called a stuma, a closed paragraph ending. Sometimes you have a way, or a new paragraph will begin in the Torah, is one paragraph will end, and the next paragraph begins on the following line. That's called a psucha, an open paragraph ending. If there's a mistake, if a closed paragraph ending was switched to an open paragraph ending, and vice versa, that would invalidate the Torah from continuing to being used, and a new Torah scroll would have to be taken out to finish off the Torah reading. Paragraph 3. Let's say you have two letters that are touching. So if the fact that they're touching makes them lose their original shape, where they're touching is so connected that it doesn't look like two individual letters, then it's for sure not kosher. You sure have to take out a new Torah to finish off the Torah reading. But let's say they still need this. Each letter still maintains their own distinctive shape, but there's a little connection between them. Would that invalidate the Torah? Could you keep using it or not? Now, one thing to note to keep in mind is, I keep using the word invalidate the Torah. Of course, this Torah should be fixed up. What we're discussing now, and you shouldn't take it out to read with again until it's fixed up. What we're talking about now is once you're already reading with it, do you have to close it up, put it away, and take out a new Torah or not? So again, you have two letters that are touching and they still maintain their distinct form. You can still tell what those letters are, but there's a little bit of ink connecting the two of them. So it gets a bit complicated now. It depends upon whether they were written this way when they were being formed by the scribe initially, they were connected. It depends on whether they were written individually and then some ink fell afterwards and connected them. And so leave this to the rabbi to figure out, because this gets very technical about how it was connected, when it was connected, and even if it was connected when it was written, was it connected after letters from that form? So that one, we're not going to go into all those details. Leave that for the rabbi to decide. One thing to note, however, that as we're talking about a weekday and there's a scribe, there's no way to fix it up. He could take a knife. The way you erase ink in a Torah scroll is you take a sharp little knife and you scrape the ink off the parchment. It doesn't get absorbed into the parchment. It kind of rests on it like paint, kind of. So you could scrape it off. That's how you erase it. So if there's a scribe there who knows what he's doing, he could fix it on the spot, scrape off the little connection, and then it should be good to go. But again, it depends on how the mistake happened. And so, the rabbi has to be involved, of course. Paragraph 4. Let's say you find a letter in the Torah that is disfigured. It doesn't have its complete shape anymore. Or there's like a hole somewhere that got punched in the paper, and that caused the letter to get disfigured. In these cases, you would have to put away this Torah and take out a new Torah to finish off reading. Let's say you find a hole right next to the letter. Now, there's a rule that every letter in the Torah has to be surrounded by white parchment paper. But if there's a hole that's punched right next to the letter, there's now a spot in this letter that's not surrounded by white parchment paper because there's a hole there instead. So if it's clear that when the scribe wrote the Torah, the paper was complete and the punctured hole came afterwards, then you would not have to put away this Torah. You could finish off the reading with this Torah scroll. If ink was scraped off somehow or other, and if the letter is disfigured because the ink was scraped off, and you can still make out underneath like a bit of the letter beneath the ink, like because it still made the paper there's still a little bit black left. If it's not fully black, even if there's a little bit of ink left, it's not clearly fully black, it still would be invalidated, and you have to bring out a new Torah to finish off the Torah reading. Paragraph 5. Let's say you have the Torah reader says something here looks funny. The rabbi comes over, takes a look, says, yeah, we're not sure if these letters are connected or not, or maybe they are connected a little bit, but they still are distinct enough and it might be kosher. So there's a doubt over here. What do you do? So just to clarify, if there's no doubt, if the letter is clearly an invalid letter, if the Torah scroll is clearly invalid, it's invalid, nothing to talk about. But we're not sure the letter has lost a bit of its form. And we're wondering, does this gimel still look like a gimel? Does this aleph look like an aleph? Then what you do is you call over a young child, a child who knows what the aleph beis letters, the Hebrew alphabet letters, are supposed to look like, but not a child that knows enough that he could actually read the letters in the Torah and figure out what it should be based upon the context of the verses. And you say to the child, what does this letter look like to you over here? So if the child says, oh, that's a gimel, or that's an aleph, or that's a yud, whatever it is, right? They know what it is. Then we say, all right, the form is still there. We're using the child to determine whether this looks like that letter or not. However, if the child says, I'm not sure what that is, or they say the wrong letter, then that would invalidate the Torah. But again, just to stress, this is where we're not sure. We know the halacha. We know that if what's connected, it's the laws of how letters are supposed to be formed and looked are very technical. And we know that it fits that, but we're not sure if this thing looks connected or is not connected. That's when we ask a child. We have a little bit of doubt of which category this falls into. Well, then ask a child. But this is after we know the fact. We know the halacha. We know what each letter is supposed to look like, and we have a doubt about what it is. If we clearly see with our eyes, this is a invalid letter, it's a puzzle letter, that would invalidate the Torah regardless of what a child will say. Paragraph 6. When we're asking a child to look at a Torah scroll to take a look at a letter, we're supposed to cover up all the words before this word. Even though we're asking a child who can't figure out things from context, we want to be certain, and therefore we'll cover up all the words that are before this word. Say if the child does have some idea of what the Torah is talking about, he won't be able to use the context to figure out what this letter is supposed to be. Also, if we're asking a child to look at a letter, if there's a hole in the parchment, a hole through a letter that might invalidate the letter, also we might cover up part of the letter. Again, it gets technical when you have to cover up that part of the letter or not, and so they will leave this to the rabbi to figure out. This concludes today's learning. Have a wonderful day, and see you on the next episode.